Alrighty, we are in full effect summertime, hence the no hat and hence the tank top, but you didn't come here for any of that. Today we're talking about should you buy a Sony FX6 in the year 2024, this year. Depending on when you're watching this, could be a year from now, could be, the day of. And if you are, I appreciate it. Now, there was a sentence that could encapsulate or, package in what I believe the Sony FX6 is for many, many people, including myself. It is a smaller cinema camera that is feature rich. Let's dive into some of those features that I feel like if you were looking for a cinema camera, again, in that smaller compact version, what would you be looking for? What would you actually want for your needs, for your shooting needs? The first one is the variable ND. Now, owning a Sony FX9 for many years, variable ND has been a godsend. It makes your life so much easier. If you're doing a lot of run and gun shoots, something where you normally would put on a screw-on ND filter in front of your lens, you know how cumbersome that can be. Not only do you have to carry, maybe one or two different types of variable NDs, like a 1 to 5 stop and then a 6 to 9 stop, or even, like a 10 to 12 stop. It can be cumbersome carrying around multiple ND filters, and especially if multiple lenses, and you're like, oh, now I have to have step up rings or step down rings, and oh, is there vignetting? A lot of challenges that can make your life a lot less fun, right, on set. And so having a built-in variable ND system, you can dial in specifically from 2 stops all the way to 7 stops of internal ND, right? So it'll just make your life a lot easier when using variable NDs. The second reason I think an FX6 is your best buy in 2024 in these certain scenarios is you're doing sports or action, anything that requires high frame rate use. And then specifically if you want to use 4K high frame rate. And the FX6, along with a handful of cameras out on the market, can do 4K 60 all the way to 4K 120 with a slight crop. Compare that to my FX9, which is 2.5 times the size of the FX6. It can do 4K 60, but it has to crop the sensor, right, in what's called full frame 5K mode. So you can't even get the full width of the sensor shooting 60 frames per second. So if you're in a situation where your work, your clientele is a lot of action or high frame rate kind of stuff, right, high speed kind of stuff for cars or for food, right, the whole plethora of video production for high frame rate stuff, the FX6 I think is probably one of your best buys. The third thing about the FX6 that I really, really enjoy and I really appreciate is having dual XLR supports. And the preamps, in my experience on the Sony FX6, the top panel XLRs are just as good as the FX9. So again, quality isn't a big difference there if you were concerned about that.
When I started Tara Health Foundation, it was with the intention of bringing all of the skills that I had learned in my very long career in medicine. And I had been really successful in that career, and I had clarity about what my skills were and what I had to offer.
It makes your life a lot easier when, say, you're doing a kind of documentary shoot, or if you're a one-man band and you have to get audio into camera. It's a lot easier when you can do it in camera than having to bring an external recorder and then sync everything in post, whether you have time code or not, right? Having a secure connection via XLR can make your life a lot easier. Compared to most other camera systems out there, even smaller mirrorless cameras, they only have one 3.5mm jack, right? So on the FX6, you're getting 2 audio inputs. You can have your boom mic set up, and you can also have your wireless lob set up, and both of those going into your camera. And the fourth reason why you might want to get a FX6 in 2024 is if you're doing a lot of live events, weddings, could be music festivals, or if you're shooting a lot of clubs, low light performance, the FX6 is probably one of the best cameras out there when it comes to low light performance. Having a high base ISO of 12,800 can save you, can basically save your entire project if you have to absolutely shoot in a environment, in a atmosphere where there's no light, right? Now, let's be honest, right? There's going to be some kind of light. Could be a street lamp, headlights from cars, something, right? Or if you're shooting a music festival, the stage is lit, right? You have some sort of light coming to the sensor. And the fifth reason I think is if you're simply a Sony user already, maybe you have a 7S3, or my situation, I already had an FX9, and you're looking to add another camera as a B camera, or your new main A camera, or perhaps a travel camera, right? And so the FX6 simply was, for me, when I sold my Red Komodo, I didn't really have a B camera. I had my A7 IV, which is what I'm filming on right now, and it's great for those smaller shoots where you just need an off angle set up on a longer lens, totally fine, not a huge deal, right? A7S3, FX3, FX30 would be just as great. But I also had a lot of travel shoots at the beginning of this year, and the first one I had, I brought my FX9, and it you know, I've done it before. But honestly, having a FX6 would have been the better choice, and which is why I picked up an FX6 for the other travel shoots that I had. As of the last, few months or so, I would say that I've used my FX6 just as much as my FX9, and in certain situations, my FX6 has been the A camera rather than having to bring my my FX9. I feel like if you're already a Sony user, like I mentioned before, it's probably a no-brainer to get the FX6. But if you're shopping around, you're like, man, which one should I get? I honestly would look at all the camera systems from all the manufacturers, do like an Excel sheet or something like that where you can go, okay, pros and cons. What does this camera have? What does this camera not have? And if there's more pros for a certain camera, I think you should go that route, as always. But, the FX6 is certainly one of the best cameras out there for any of your production needs. That is it for me, friends. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as always, just so you are notified of new content coming out. And remember, friends, every day you have an opportunity to create your experience and to write and tell your own story. My name is David Lee, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Thank you.